Okay, so welcome back. We want to look at this topic where we are going to learn about the basic functions of eSight. So eSight, as we've seen, is a management and maintenance system developed for both wired and wireless campus networks and also branch networks for enterprises. Now, it implements a unified management of intelligent and intelligent association between enterprise resources, services, and users. So this particular topic describes eSight's basic functions, including security management, resource management, alarm management, and performance management. So for other functions such as configuration, file management, log management, wireless LAN monitoring, MPLS, VPNs, packet conversion algorithm for internet, service level agreements, and network traffic analyzer, you can see the official eSight documentation. You can look at the eSight official documentation to learn about all those other functions that eSight supports. But for this topic, we're going to focus on these four: security, resource, alarm, and performance management. So by the end of this chapter, you should be able to volunteer. Okay, so by the end of this chapter, you should be able to be familiar with eSight basic functions. You should also master operations of eSight's basic functions. So we're going to look at security management, then we go to resource, then alarm, then performance. So begin with security management. So how can network security management be implemented in such a scenario? So this scenario, we have, for example, the headquarters, and we want the headquarters to be able to monitor all the branches. But we also have network administrators at each of the branch, and we only want them to be able to manage their respective branch network and not to be able to see the other branches network. So how can you be able to configure such a security requirement? So to do that, so this guy, operator AB, responsible for operating and maintaining network devices in both city A and B. Then this one only responsible for monitoring and maintaining alarms of network devices in city A. This one responsible for monitoring and maintaining alarms of network devices in city B. So the network administrator have different operation rights. So implementing network security management to a certain extent. So how do we achieve that? So on eSight, you can be able to create users and also create different user roles. How to create users is by clicking on the system menu item on the top menu, then you click on user management. So after clicking on user management, then you're going to see the user management side menu. Okay, so let's go through the items here. So the very first item here is the user link. It's used for creating multiple users that need to manage the network. Number two, the role. Of course, the role is used to specify the operation rights and object management policies, and also authorized operation rights to the different users. Then under my settings, that is where you can change your password and also set contact information. The other important one is account policy. So in account policy, you can set things like the name length, the username, how long should it be, also login policies. Login policies can include things like if you enter a wrong password, how many times do we allow you to retry? So settings like those ones. Then you have the password policy, used to set the complexity requirements for the password, the change interval, and also the length. Then we have the client IP address policy. This is used to set the IP address from which users are allowed to log into eSight. So it's a very important security feature so that a hacker cannot access your eSight over the internet if they have the server IP address, because you've already set the allowed. And that's why the network management systems for network administrators are supposed to actually be permanent. So you should configure your DHCP server to always give the same address to your NMS. Then the login time policy. So you can also choose the time period during which users are allowed to log in to eSight. Then this is where you can view everyone that is online. You can also see or detect any unauthorized login users, and you can actually forcibly log anyone out, depending now on your role. If you're a super admin, you can be able to do that. Idle time setting. So the client will automatically log you out if you've been idle for a certain period of time, so that it can prevent other users from performing unauthorized operations. So those are some of the settings that you can access. So quickly, let's see how to create a role. So to do that, you click on the role, and then you click on create. So to assign an administrative domain to a role so that the role can manage specified objects in the domain. So that's how you do it. So let's move on to the next one. So after you've clicked on that, you're gonna see the add button. So if you click on it, you're going to see several roles which you can select. So you can select each of the roles that you want to assign that particular user, and click on OK. So let's see how to set the user name and password. So if you want to change the username and password, you click on user, then you enter a username and a password here. Then setting a role. So you see here, we have several role names. So for example, in the previous slides, we created a role called Huawei. So that role has several roles in it. So you can have another role called administrators, for example, monitor, operator, security, and you'll enable certain functionalities for each of the roles. So for this user, we can select the Huawei role, which we just created in the previous slide. You can also configure the access control policy. Specifically, let me see. So if you click create, so here we want to specify the time. We want to specify the time which this guy is allowed to access eSight. So we are calling that particular policy access control policy access policy. Then we can choose when that policy will be active, the start and end date. Then We can choose the time that they're allowed, and we can also choose even the weeks, the day of the weeks that they're allowed to access eSight, and we can put a description so that we can remember what that policy was about when we want to access it later. So those are some of the parameters that you can set. You can also configure the IP addresses that are allowed to access eSight. So you can enter a start IP address and an end IP address, and you can enter a description. So for example, this is branch 1 that is in Nairobi, branch 2 in Nakuru. So you can just create a group of email addresses that are allowed to access your eSight. So we can also configure policies. We can also configure account policies. So proper username, length limits, and user login policies can also improve eSight access security. So an account policy applies to all users. Therefore, it must be set by the security administrator. So to do that, you click on Systems, then User Management, then you come to Account Policy. So on the Account Policy, you can set things like the minimum username length. So a user cannot have a username that is less than 4 characters. For example, if you enter 4 there, you can also enable account suspension policy. So what you're doing there is, you see, we have here consecutive offline days. So here we've put 60. So what that means, if this guy has not accessed eSight for 60 days, then we are going to suspend his account. We're going to put his account on hold. Then we also have this one, enable account lock policy. Now, this particular policy has several parameters that we can set under it. One of them is the allowed duration. So if you're idle for 30 minutes, it will log you out. Then the next one is consecutive failed login attempts. So if you enter the wrong username and or password 5 times, it's also going to restrict you from trying to log in again. Then we have the lockdown duration. So after you've entered the wrong username and password 5 times, you have to wait for 10 minutes before you are able to log in again. So that is what the login duration is. And if you don't want to set that, you can actually choose permanent lock, so that if they try 5 times and they fail, you lock down that account completely. So these are some of the settings that can improve security of your eSight. So that is all about security management. Now we can look at resource management. Okay. So resource management function allows you to add devices to eSight and perform operations such as query, monitoring, and configuration on these devices in a centralized manner. These devices in your network are commonly referred to as NE, or network elements. And simply put, network elements include the hardware devices and software running on them. So that is what we call network elements. So it can be routers, it can be servers, it can be switches, and so on and so forth. Okay. So under resource management, we've said that one of the first things you have to do is to add devices so that you can be able to perform several operations on them. Now, eSight supports 3 different ways in which you can use to add devices. The first one is known as single addition. Single addition. In the single addition, you add each device by specifying its IP address. So we're going to look into that. Then we have the automatic discovery. Now, in automatic discovery, you specify IP address ranges for your network elements. So you specify a range. Then eSight is going to scan your network and be able to add them. Then the last option is known as the device import, where you use an Excel file. When you're using the Excel file, there's a particular specific Excel template that you're supposed to download for that, and you're not supposed to change the structure of that particular file so that it can work. So to add resources or devices, on the top menu, we have the resources. We have the resources top menu there. Then you come to add resource. So after you've added devices, you can be able to actually see how they are interconnected. So you can go to view topology. So you go to choose monitor and then topology management. So you can actually see how your devices are interconnected on your network. Okay, so let's look at single addition. So again, nothing much here. As we've said, with single addition, you specify the IP address of the device that you want to add. How to do that? You come to resources, add resource, then the very first option on the side menu is add resource. So with single addition, you can discover that particular device whose IP you're specifying through SNMP or through ICMP or through Telnet. So when you're using SNMP, you must have enabled SNMP. SNMP must have been enabled on your devices. Otherwise, for ICMP, we know that you can always ping any device on your network. So here, network devices do not have SNMP parameters. Yeah, what that means is most of the time we use the ICMP option if that particular network element does not support SNMP parameters. But otherwise, if we've enabled SNMP in our router and our switch, we can always use the SNMP option. So those are some of the options that you have there. Okay, then we have automatic discovery. So here, devices are automatically discovered based on the range of IP address that you specify. So the start IP address and the end IP address. Then you can choose the subnet to which you want to specify those particular devices to be, and you can actually add other subnets, for example. So for example, you can say this is the headquarters. You can also add another one from, for example, Nakuru. You add another one for Mombasa, so that the topologies can be grouped into such. So you can give that particular subnet, for example, a name, and you can specify that you want to automatically add the discovered devices. You can also change the SNMP settings if you want. So after you've done that, you simply click on Discover here. You click on Discover, and it's going to automatically add devices within that range. Now, the last way in which you can add devices is through device import. So as I've mentioned before, you need to use the provided template which you can download from, it from ENSP. So if you go to resources, add resource, then you come to import resource here, you can be able to download the template. Now, the only trick with adding devices through the import is that all the devices must be SNMP capable, and you must have enabled SNMP in all those devices. So that is very important to remember. The other thing that is important to remember is that at any one given import, you can only import a maximum of 500 devices at a go. So you cannot do more than 500. So also watch out on that. Okay, now you can also add physical resources. So physical resources are physical entities of devices, such as the chassis, the cards, the subcards, and the ports. So you can also do that. So how to do that? You click on resources, then you click on network device. Then you can see the physical entities here: the frame, the board, the subcard, the port, etc. So for each of them, you can see that we have several operations that you can perform here, including switch to a topology. If you want to see the topology, which particular, for example, here we have this switch here. So if you click on this, you can see the topology on how it has been interconnected to any of the other resources on this list. You can modify remarks just like a comment. For example, this switch is in Nakuru, something like that. And you can also see resource details, including the name of the switch, the version of VRP it's running, and many other details. And you can actually remove it by clicking on the X here. So you can delete it. In the same way you can add devices, you can also delete devices. Okay. So you can also create a group. What is a group? You can create a group and add network elements into different subnets to the group. So once you do that, they are considered as one object. So you can then assign the object to a user. So the object is simply a group of network elements. So once you assign it, then this will improve the batch device management efficiency. So what that means is that you can, for example, create a group called routers, and you add all your routers in that group. You can create a group called switch, and you add all the switches in that group. You can create a group called access controllers. Then you can assign individual network engineers to monitor each of the group. So you batch routers together. So they're the ones that are monitoring. So how to do that? You click on, again, resource. Then we have a link called groups. Then you can always click add. So you can enter, for example, the group name. You can enter the description. For example, here we're calling it access. So these are access layer devices, blah, blah, blah. And you can specify the other parameters. So grouping of devices, network elements, just helps improves the management to make it easier. So now let's look at the other function of eSight, alarm management. Very critical function of eSight. Now, eSight is able to monitor the device status in real time and receive fault alarms from devices in order to help administrators locate and rectify faults in a timely manner. So some of the functions of the alarm management includes query and process of alarms. You can also set the monitoring rules. So when do you get the threshold? When do you get an alarm? When what happens? You can also set the remote alarm notification system. So where should the notification be sent? Where should the alert be sent? Now, generally, alarms can be classified as either alarm classification. Alarms can be classified as either NE, network element alarms, or NMS, NMS alarms. So NE or network elements alarms, they are actually generated when the network elements become faulty. For example, a link goes down, or the CPU is almost at maximum capacity of its usage, and therefore you've set a threshold that you should be alerted when that happens. So when there's a problem with the network element, like the router and the switch, you get an NE alarm. Then you have an NMS alarm. Remember, your NMS is that system that you're using to monitor the network. So these alarms are generated when connections between the NMS and the network elements are interrupted, or when the NMS itself becomes faulty, you get an NMS alarm. So those are the two types. Those are the classification of alarms. Let me call them that. Okay. So this is the alarm monitoring panel. So at the very top, on the left, on the right actually, we have an alarm monitoring panel. Now generally, alarms are classified into 4 categories based on their severe, how severe they are. So let me just list them here. So alarm severity. So the first one, the baddest, critical. Then you have a major one. Then you have a minor. And lastly, we have a warning. So the most severe is critical. So the red icon here, this one. The red icon here is for the critical. So you can see you have 0 critical alarms. This one is major. This one is minor. And the last one here is warning. So when something goes wrong, depending on how you've set it, you're always going to see that there. Now, so if you choose monitor and then fault management, then current alarms, you can be able to see some of the alarms that have, you can see historical, as for example, alarms that you've already dealt with. So here we can actually see 2 examples. We have a warning alarm. We have a warning alarm that occurred here. We also have a critical alarm, link down. There's a link that went down there. So there are several operations that you can perform for each of the alarm. So one of them is that you can acknowledge. So by clicking on this second icon here, you can simply, it's like just checking a checkbox to confirm that you've seen that alarm. Then once you've resolved the issue, you can also click on the last icon here to clear the alarm, so that it no longer appears on the notification here. So those are some of the things that you can do. Okay. So how do you set alarm monitoring rules? So under monitor, you can click on alarm settings, then notification rule. So here, some of the things that you can set under the notification rule is the number. So here, this is just the member, but you can set the number and the email address, so that this guy can be notified through SMS and or email when there is a problem. So that is what you can enter there under the notification rule. Okay. So remote notification mode, if you where is it? If you click on monitor and then set notified server, system settings, then set notified server, you can set an email server, or you can set an SMS server, or you can use an SMS modem. So you can attach an a modem to your eSight server. Then you can specify the port in which you've connected your modem and the mobile number for receiving that particular notification. So when you do this, then the modem, from the line in the modem, it's going to send an SMS to this particular person. So this one is for email, if you have an email server, so that the email is sent from that particular server. And this is from an SMS server, if you have an SMS server. So those are the three options that you can set for remote notification: an email server, an SMS server, or you can directly attach an SMS modem. So we're done with alarm management. Now we look at performance management. So performance counters are defined for each resource to measure its performance. So eSight comprehensively monitors performance data of its managed resources, as well as the relationship between resource performance, and provides comprehensive analysis on all-round performance data of resources. So this enables network administrators to master the network running status and perform network optimization accordingly to ensure optimal running of the network. So some of the performance management parameters that you need to understand or concepts include what we call a counter. Now, A counter is a measure that is used to evaluate the performance of a resource. So for example, the performance of the CPU, the performance of the memory, what % of the memory is being used right now. So that is what we call a counter. Now, because, for example, switches in your network or routers in your network, they have similar counters. So we've said a counter can be a CPU, it can be a port, it can be memory. So because they have similar counters, you can create what we call a counter template. So devices of the same type have the same counter attributes. So you can combine them into a template so that you don't go on to create for each of the switch. Then you have what we call the counter threshold. So a counter threshold determines whether to report an alarm and the level of reported alarm. For example, if the CPU usage is above 95% for 5 minutes, send a critical alarm. So that is what a counter threshold is used for. Then you have what we call a performance collection task. Performance collection task, which is created to collect the performance data of the device. So it collects the performance data of the device, for example, the CPU usage, and then displays the performance data in graphs. So that is what a performance collection task is. The other one is what we call the measurement object. A measurement object specifies the object to be measured if a specific resource has multiple objects. So for example, if a device has multiple CPUs, then a measurement object specifies the specific CPU to be measured. So that is what a measurement object is. It specifies the specific resource to be measured. If a device has several of the same object. Then you have the collection period, which is the interval at which performance data is collected. So if you set the collection period to 5 minutes, then eSight will collect performance data of the specified object after every 5 minutes. After every 5 minutes. So that is what we call a collection period. So I hope you've understood those. So performance management flowchart, let's go through this. So number one, you can create a monitoring template. So in creating a monitoring template, you can select the performance counters and set the counter thresholds. So after that, you can go ahead. The second step is monitoring the tasks. So you can select a counter template or specific counters. Then you select the measurement objects. Then you automatically collect the data. Then step number 3, scheduled collection at the background. So the system automatically creates detailed collection information. Then performance data. So you can view the performance data. You can also view historical performance data, and you can also view real-time performance data, like how the CPU is being used or the memory, real-time. Now, those are concerned with the performance management. On alarm management, so you can generate an alarm when the measurement values exceed preset thresholds. So we're going to set the counter thresholds. So when they exceed those thresholds, then you should get an alert. So on the eSight homepage, you can view the top data, on graphs and other views of how different counters in your network are performing. Okay. So how do you create a monitoring template? So you can click on monitor and then monitoring templates, like that. So on this left menu here, so you can choose by the service scope or administrative domain. So for example, here we are choosing under network device, we choose device, then you can click create. So eSight predefines several counter templates for the different devices, so that you do not need to create templates for commonly used counters like CPU, memory, etc. So for a particular device, you can be able to view the detailed information by clicking on that, or you can modify the template if you want to change, maybe remove or add some counters from that counter template. So number 2, you can add counters. So for example, if you click on the modify there, you can come here to add performance counter. Then you can be able to choose from the list here by clicking on the checkbox. So for example, NE average CPU usage, you can check that one. Network element average memory usage, you can check that one. Then you click OK. So that is how you create a template by adding performance counters one by one, if you don't want to use a predefined template. Then you can set the thresholds. Let me see. Where is number 1? Okay. I'm trying to get something here. What is happening here? Okay. We are creating a template called test clear alarm. Why are we clicking on this? Oh, okay. So I think nimepata. Okay, so in that particular template we are creating, we've entered several counters, like the average CPU usage, the average memory usage, response duration, daily ping failures. So those are some of the counters that we've specified. Now, on this particular counter, the CPU usage, so we've entered alarm name. We've created an alarm. So average CPU usage exceeds a certain value for a particular time. It can be between 1 to 200 minutes. So we've entered for 1 minute, the CPU has exceeded the set threshold. So if that happens, it's going to send us an alarm. So we can always do that and then click OK to save. Okay, so after that, now we have created the template called test. So we can also create a monitoring task. So you click on monitor and then monitoring template. So you can go, for example, to network device. So we can see here, displays the maximum number of tasks and counters reported on eSight and the number of created collection tasks and counters. So what is happening here. Also, we're having a default collection task here. We can see that the green icon indicates valid counters, while the gray icons indicate invalid counters. Then the operations that you can perform include modifying that particular monitoring task or stopping it completely. Okay. So in creating a monitoring task, these are the steps that you go through. So network device, then set task information like the name and the period. So it will be checking after every 15 minutes. Then you can use a predefined counter template or add a performance counter. Then the last bit is selecting the resources that you want to monitor, your switches and routers. So that's how you create a monitoring task. So you see, when you click select template, you're given the templates that you've created. For example, you've just created test, so you can use that one. When you choose to pick a list of them, then you simply check them, then click OK. For example, CPU usage, memory usage, blah, blah, blah. So depending on what you want to use there. Then the last bit is to select the resources. So you can select the resources by the group. Remember we said you can group routers into one group, switches into one group. So you can select by group, then you'll see a group. You'll see a list of groups that you've created. For example, Cisco devices, firewall devices, H3C devices, Huawei devices, blah, blah, blah. Or by type. Or by device. So device by device, device by device. So you can select your network elements in one of those three ways. So after that, you click OK, and now your network monitoring task, your monitoring task will now be created. So these devices, these particular devices are now going to be monitored in terms of CPU usage, memory usage, response duration, and ping failures. So if you go to the home page, you should be able to view the performance of each of those network elements, and you can see the color that is related to the threshold alarm. So you can see that the CPU usage, so it's green because everything is okay, memory usage, response time, blah, blah, blah. So that is what you see. Now, I don't know whether, let me see if it's in the next slide. Okay. So the other thing you can do from this list, you can click on a particular device. For example, switch 4, SS7. You can click on it. If you click on it, it will open up the specific details for that particular device. You see, you can see the average for each of the category and the maximum and the minimum. Average, maximum, maximum. Like that. Also, if you hover above any of this, you get the graph. You get the graph. The graph of the performance actually appears, and you can click on that particular area bar to view the detailed historical trend chart for the last 24 hours, or the last week, or the last month, or the last 3 months. So you can actually look at the real-time data or historical data. Okay. So if you want to look at real time, then you click on this, real time. You click on that tab, then you can be able to see the performance of any of the device. And you can click on the particular, these icons to change on the layout on how you want to see them. So you can see that this is the graph for the CPU usage. This is the graph for the memory usage for a particular device. And you can also view historical performance data by clicking on that tab. Then you can choose a specific date by sliding this slider here to a specific date and time. So that is it about eSight functionalities. We've only focused on 4, but if you want to know how to manage MPLS VPNs, wireless networks, and so on and so forth with eSight, you can always download its documentation and go through it. But it's a very, very powerful and important tool that we should use to simplify network management in our networks. Asanteni sana. Asanteni sana. So take time, go through these questions and try and answer them. If you have a problem, let me know. Anyone with a question? Anyone with a question? Okay, thank you very much.